how can we enhance customer loyalty furthermore for a brand? How do brand owners go about doing that?
Absolutely. I think with email specifically and any kind of messaging that we send out in marketing, it's about making the customers feel heard, acknowledged, and just really creating a sense of belonging. Now, that means just not constantly blasting them with sales, like generalized sales emails all the time. It's actually about sending them how-to videos, like value-based emails that they can actually use in their lives, tip-based emails, like creating a community through like Facebook or TikTok, for example, just trying to also create like a bit of an omni-channel experience there, but just not just pushing sales emails. And I think that's where we sort of nurture the relationship with your customers and sort of build that sense of brand loyalty. So even if they don't purchase from, like, say, the first month of emails, they will essentially purchase because they do want to purchase at some point, but just not at this certain moment.
All right. So, Kana, as we spoke about in our last video, we went over like the basics of retention. In this video, I want to take it a step further and kind of dive into like the nitty gritty, not quite getting into like each and every flow and campaigns and segments, but starting off with like, I guess, like niched in topics. For example, like the first thing I want to ask you about is how do we go about like personalizing a customer experience? Like, what does that look like in your eyes, and how would you go about setting that up for a brand?
Okay. Well, there's a lot of ways to kind of do this, but the way I like to do it is thinking about myself in the customer's position, right? So take the brand Amorous, for example, right? So you buy a cleanser from them. And instead of just getting a bunch of different emails that doesn't pertain to what you bought, you get a follow-up email maybe 4 days later around a moisturizer that complements the cleanser that you bought. Now that feels a lot more personal, right, than just getting some random emails. So that's what you can do with email marketing when it's done right. Just creating a really good customer experience. Just really looking at like customer behavior, their preferences, their buying journeys. So taking that into account. I know like a lot of email marketers kind of think personalization is adding the customer's name on the email, and they're like, that's personalization.
Yeah.
Like, that's not. Yeah, it's really about understanding the customer's preferences and buying behavior.
Okay, got you. And like to dive deeper into that, like what would, rather than maybe putting like a first name or a birthday, like a birthday is a really common one that I see as well, right? Like that, like email marketers or like email agencies will say like, hey, like we're taking it really, really personalized, but just adding a birthday. But I feel like there's a lot more to it than just birthdays and first names. So what are some examples, and can you provide some examples of like how would we do that? Is it maybe like I don't know. Like, what would you say? Like, how exactly would we go about doing that?
Absolutely. In terms of, well, you could do that pretty easily on campaigns, right? You just create specific segments. Let's just say if people have opted into or clicked or showed interest in like a specific topic, then you send them follow-up emails on that if they haven't purchased. So that's pretty easy to do with campaigns. But what's a really good strategy that we can do with flows that I like to use is specifically with the welcome flow and the post-purchase journey. So with the welcome flow, I really like to collect zero-party data from the customers well before they even, think about like purchasing. So understanding exactly the reason why they're on their site. And that also helps to improve the business holistically as well. So take NZT, for example. Why are people on the site? Are they looking for brain fog? Are they looking for energy? Are they looking for focus? Are they looking for memory? So understanding exactly what the customer wants. And then from there, using that information to create a tailored welcome series straight from the start. So that's what we've been doing with NZT right now. So that's like, acquisition kind of personalization that we do with email. Now we can even take that a step further when they actually purchase from us. So let's just say they've purchased like, for example, like Amorous, they've purchased like a cleanser. What can we actually do post-purchase to really elevate and personalize their journey? So sending them follow-up instructions on how to actually use the cleanser, or like, guidelines on best practices and expectations on when to see results. So that's all like kind of goes into whole personalization. And then from there, kind of like massaging them or kind of segueing into a cross-sell, being like, hey, did you really enjoy this product? Here's all the reasons that you liked it. These are products that work really, really well. So that's also how we kind of build into the retention, getting them to try new products and becoming a loyal customer through that.
I love it. I love it. Something I've seen you do really well for some brands, Kana, was for example on the pop up and just collecting like zero party data was identifying for certain brands, is it a purchase for themselves or is it a gift, right? You know what I'm saying? And like personalizing
Absolutely,
that
yeah.
experience as well. Like I actually when you first did that, I was like, that's actually super super cool, right? Because like depending, like sometimes, for example, jewelry, like fine jewelry, like
Yeah,
some customers are going to be buying for themselves, but others are going to be buying as gifts. And I thought that was really really cool, and just seeing like how you mapped out like the welcome series and how like there's two different like gateways for customers to go. I thought that was really cool. So maybe on our next video, or one of our following videos, we can actually do like a breakdown of like what would that look
absolutely.
like, just as like
Yeah.
as a mock up. I thought that'd be pretty cool. Okay, so next topic, Kana, that I want to touch on is direct and cost-effective communication. Tell me a little bit more about that. How exactly do we go about that?
Well, we've seen that a lot with our customers, well, on new clients that are coming in right now. Everyone's like, we're reducing our spend on paid ads. We just really want to double down on retention, right? So it's pretty obvious that email is more cost effective than paid ads and that sort of thing. So that's why a lot of people are now turning to email as their kind of primary marketing channel. But what's also really cool about email, besides that, is that we can communicate directly to the customer. They've already shown an interest rather than paid ads where you just like, throwing money at it, hoping that they click, but most of the time they just swipe out. So this is very direct, and if done we can actually send messages that they actually want to engage with, and then that just also helps build our followings. But just a caveat
Yeah,
that I want to
yeah.
add here is that oh yeah, just a caveat that I want to add here is that a lot of like clients that I've seen now, they just stopped all of their ads completely. So they have zero traffic going into their website. And then they're like, why are our customers not buying every single day? It's like, you need new eyes on your website. You need to constantly grow your list in order to see kind of fruits of your labor from retention, because there's no retention without acquisition. So that's something huge. If you take out one thing from this podcast, that's definitely it.
Correct, correct. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that can be such an overlooked concept, and that's just a general business fundamental, right? Is like the front end acquisition, getting people to see your product or service, and then also the retention side, right? Maximizing customer LTV, following up with customers that are already in your database. Like those are the two lifelines of a business. Obviously, making sure you have a great
Absolutely.
product or service is a big one, but like those two go hand in hand. Like it's not retention is better than acquisition or acquisition is better than retention. It's something like we think that is like known, but I feel like in the business world, like people forget, right? Or like people sometimes like it goes over their head, like the importance of it. So yeah, big one for sure. Next topic that I want to talk about is customer loyalty. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into this one, Kana, and I want to go through specifics on first and foremost, like I think just touching on like why is this so important, and how does this holistically improve the overall like retention efforts and just the overall marketing efforts for a brand. But how can we enhance customer loyalty furthermore for a brand? How do brand owners go about doing that?
Absolutely. I think with email specifically and any kind of messaging that we send out in marketing, it's about making the customers feel heard, acknowledged, and just really creating a sense of belonging. Now, that means just not constantly blasting them with sales, like generalized sales emails all the time. It's actually about sending them how-to videos, like value-based emails that they can actually use in their lives, tip-based emails, like creating a community through like Facebook or TikTok, for example, just trying to like also create like a bit of an omni-channel experience there, but just not just pushing sales emails. And I think that's where we sort of like nurture the relationship with your customers and sort of build that sense of brand loyalty. So even if they don't purchase from like just say the first month of emails, they will essentially purchase because yeah, they're engaged in your brand and they want to hear from you. If they're clicking but they're not purchasing, that means that they're um, they are they do want to purchase at some point, but just not at this certain moment. I hope I explained
Yeah,
that correctly. I don't think I
yeah.
did.
No, no, you did. It makes sense. And I think one more thing that I just want to add is like, if we just put ourselves in a customer's shoes, you know what I'm saying? Like, say we're getting a brand that we absolutely love, and every day or every other day is just a sale campaign, right? And we love the brand, but versus on the other hand, you have a brand that's sending out emails that is like engaging, right? They could maybe have like some sort of giveaways, maybe they have some sort of social proof or like product reviews or
Absolutely.
like about the product or information about the need. For example, like I'll give you a perfect example. I'm a supplement like freak, like literally, like I love supplements, so on and so forth. So some brands that I'm subscribed to versus some of the other ones, I see what they do really, really well, right? Giving information about the supplements. How does it work?
Yeah.
within the body, right? What are the benefits? What is it? What are the pros and cons versus supplementation versus actually getting food in your system, right? And like really giving breakdown and information, right? At the end of the day, I feel like email at the end of the day, all it is a channel for education, right? And building trust within your community. I feel like the only authentic
Absolutely.
way to do that is by actually providing legitimate value and not just sales campaigns, right? And I really think that is the what differentiates a good brand versus a mediocre brand, right? And I feel like that is
Absolutely.
what differentiates 7, 8 figure, 9 figure brands from a 6 figure brand. So I thought that was pretty important. That I just want to add on.
Absolutely. And then just to complement that as well, it's also about creating a good post purchase journey as well, right? That's the only way you're going to get good testimonials. Because if you, let's just say your product's great, but you have like really shit like transactional emails, you're not updating the customers constantly on where their product is. Let's just say there's a delay and you know the product comes like 1 week after. People are going to have a bad image of your business regardless. However, if you send them an email and you're like, look, there's a bit of a shipping delay, not to worry, your product's there, just kind of comforting the customer as well and just giving them a good post-purchase journey, that all kind of sums up with retention as well. And then they also kind of leave better reviews,
Correct.
which is really great for your business as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Even like for example, collecting customer feedback, right, on like forums, surveys, so on
Absolutely.
and so
Yeah.
forth. That's a huge one as well. And just to take what you just said, right? I feel like every brand owner should sit down and just look at their whole customer buyer's journey, right? Where exactly is a customer coming
Absolutely.
in, right? And then where are they getting all the way to purchase? And then what's happening after purchase? When do they come back and buy again? How often is that cycle? Like so many brands that I've spoken to, hundreds of brands that I've spoken to, very rarely, it's rare that like a single brand owner understands every part of their buyer's journey, right? Hence, like why agencies like us exist,
Absolutely.
right? To be able to identify things like that. So,
I mean, I don't know if I can share Cushy Beauty screen, but that's exactly what we did when we did like the audit, right? We did a customer journey mapping. So understand where customers come in and also how they buy. So what's the reasons why they could potentially buy? What is the reasons that they buy? What is the reasons that they don't buy? What is the reason that they don't buy again? And just like experiential content. So there's just so many different ways that we can kind of pull in to create like that holistic experience for them.
absolutely agreed. Next thing I want to cover is measurable results in analytics. How do we go about, obviously we have this like robust system of like tracking every single results, tracking all the open rates, the deliverability metrics, the conversions, the true conversions, right? Not always just Klaviyo attribute revenue, but what's your thought process in terms of what are we measuring? What are the analytics and KPIs that we're looking for? What's important to see for a brand owner to make sure that retention, SMS channels are working correctly versus they're mediocre?
Absolutely. Well, obviously, it's really important. So, some companies have benchmarks that they specifically set. I just like to look at year on year comparisons because as long as you can see incremental growth year on year, then you know you're doing something right for your email marketing, right? But what we do at Spring is on a weekly basis because it's really important. Like we A/B test everything at Spring, right? So from the copy, whether it's like humorous copy versus emotional copy, subject lines, like design formats, design like plain text versus design emails, we test everything. Now, there's no point testing all of that if we can't actually gain insightful insights that we can use for our strategies going forward as well. So on a weekly basis, we basically create like a performance tracker and we go through the previous week's campaigns because I've done a lot of reports in my time and a lot of the stuff is just fluff, right? You can have all of these metrics, open rates, click-through rates, engagement rates, but if you don't know what to do with it and you have nothing to compare it to, then it's useless. So what we do is we look at the stats on a weekly basis and then understand like, okay, cool. Like you can see out of, let's just say the 12 months of emails, for example, NZT, the pre-gym booster topic was the best performing. So that also gives us insights on the kind of target audience that we're resonating with. We're resonating with gym bros who want to use NZT to get energy, right? So that also helps us to kind of plan our strategies going forward. So we use the insights on what worked and what didn't work, in real time, basically, to create our strategies going forward. And of course, then there's two things that you need to look at when you're looking at metrics. You need to look at engagement metrics and also like purchase rate because email is all about making money at the end of the day. As much as it's nurturing the customer's journey, if you're not creating revenue for the clients, then it's kind of pointless. So those are the two things that we
Yeah,
definitely look at. Click-through rates have more of a direct correlation to revenue generation because obviously we as email marketers cannot increase revenue, right? But what we can do is increase clicks to the website. So that's something key that we need to do, and that's obviously our goal. is just to make our emails engaging so that they actually go to the site to purchase. Um, yes, that's
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
key things that
Love,
we track.
love that. I love that. Yeah, very, very true. One thing that just comes to mind is I remember last week, we had a, I won't say the name, but we had a client send over, hey, like we tested this email in house, and this design converted better than your guys' design, right? But she was
Yeah,
from my knowledge and from what you caught, she was looking at like the complete, like she wasn't looking at the KPIs the correct way, right? And I remember you chiming in, giving an in-depth explanation, be like, hey, like XYZ actually converted a lot better, and like conversion rates, when it gets to the point of conversion rates, it's actually out of our control, right? Because all we can do at the end of the day as like retention marketers and driving traffic to their stores, drive the traffic right to the landing page.
exactly.
At the end of the day, it's up to the website and the product page to actually convert, right? And I feel like some brands forget those elements, right? So I remember you chiming in, and just explaining that, so that was pretty cool. Next thing, last couple topics that I want to touch base on is what leads to higher conversion rates as a whole. I think that was a good transition from like our last topic, but what actually leads to higher conversion rates for products and just brands in general?
Absolutely. I think the key thing here is just adapting the feedback. So now that, we've done all of this personalization, we've gotten this feedback, we've added all these like review based automations. Now, what are we actually doing with that feedback? How are we optimizing our campaigns and our email strategy and our retention strategy overall to meet those needs? So I think that's really helps with high conversions, and that's what we've seen really work really well. Also, what I've seen help with high conversion rates is testing just testing different content, testing different designs, just testing everything. That's also really helped us to increase conversion rates. Obviously, just segmenting the audience as well. As the database grows, obviously not just spamming it to the entire database. That'll really diminish your conversion rates as well as deliverability in the long run. So definitely don't do that. But just being really strategic about your segmenting as well.
Hmm.
I think those are the
Yeah,
key
agreed.
things.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. Talk to me a little bit, Kana, about just more effective abandoned cart strategies. I feel like from email marketing back in 2020 is much different than email marketing going into 2024. So, talk to me a little
Absolutely.
bit about what makes a very, very effective abandonment cart strategy. What does the flows look like? How many times are we touching base? What does that look like? What's the strategy behind that?
Absolutely. I've been working with a lot of like super basic, like abandoned carts in some of the audits that I've been doing. And there's just so much room for optimization. I think the first step would be to actually look at the customer journey. So people who have abandoned their cart for the first time, have never purchased before, is a completely different customer to people who have purchased before but abandoned their cart, right? So their journey and how many emails those two groups of people will get should be completely different. You should not be spamming people who have already tried your product with, oh, here's our testimonials, because they already know, right? They've added the product to their cart, they've already tested it, but they haven't purchased. So, the journey that you need to send them on is completely different to people who've never purchased before but abandoned their cart. And I think I also had a meeting with Vidi app this week, and it's really, really cool. So what they've started to do is create landing pages for like specific abandoned cart flows and for checkout flows and for browse flows. So for people who've, let's just say, abandoned a specific product, you can like click on that and then go to a specific landing page that has all the information about that specific product. So basically they create dedicated landing flows rather than just sending people, back to the same page that they're already, abandoned, they didn't really want. Just kind of creating a different content, creating a different journey and just personalizing it there. So there's so much room for abandoned cart, and also because there's a direct intent to purchase there, right? They've added the product to the cart. They're so close to like finishing. So that's just a really key area where you need to constantly test, optimize, and try different things.
No, I think that's actually really cool that the app that you're talking about. And I was doing some research. I actually saw on Twitter that people are making like these AI landing pages that are like this app specifically was like derived from Figma. Like it can literally integrate with Figma directly into Shopify. And it basically like for example, like our designers, they're going and making these beautiful like emails and whatever the case may be. And the way I like to look at like emails are they're basically mini like landing pages, right? And I'm just like you talking, touching base about like abandoned checkout, right? And directing them to a very specific abandoned checkout landing page. I can only imagine how well that can convert because it just goes back into the concept of that we're tailoring the customer journey so specifically. You know what I'm saying? It's very, very specific. And at the end of the day, like the more specific, it goes back to the point I was making earlier, the more specific our message and tailored message is towards where the customer is at in their buyer's journey, the higher conversions brands will see, and products will convert. So I think that's a huge thing. And with this like AI technology, it's crazy. It's getting insane.
Also, just reducing the friction to actually purchase, right? So does that mean like reducing 1 or 2 clicks? That also really helps, or making sure that the card is saved. So people don't have to go back and like add in the card. So that's where like different apps come in, like OneTix I know saves your card, Rebuy saves your card. So just looking at little things like that to just, reduce friction, make the customer journey to purchase a lot easier. All of these little steps make such a big difference at the end.
Yeah. I've seen and I've heard like one click purchases just absolutely crush. So good point. Okay. Lastly, how do brands go about strengthening their brand identity further? How does that tie into retention? How does that tie in with email and SMS? How can a brand's identity get even stronger?
Well, I know that we're just like an email retention marketing agency, but I'm a huge believer in creating an omni-channel experience, right? So that goes from like the designs, making sure that what's on the website and what's on Instagram and what's on email just creates like a whole holistic image and they're all match. And then also like linking from our emails to TikTok to Instagram, kind of growing each phase because it's not just, and I said this before as well, it's not just about trying to make email look good. It's about trying to make the business look good. So just I think making sure that all teams work holistically to create like a really good business overall. I think that's kind of the key thing there.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's just at the end of the day, it's just a channel, right? Like if we just forget
Yeah.
about, all right, we're just specifically focused on retention, so on and so forth. The fact of the matter is that it's just another channel to nurture customers, right? At the end of the day, right? And I love your approach and the approach that we're taking, that we're looking at things holistically and we're not just hyper focused, even though we are hyper focused on retention, but just being able to take a step back with that bird's eye view and being able to look at, okay, how can this increase conversions on other platforms? Because maybe like sometimes the customer journey isn't always you send an email, they click the email and then they buy. Sometimes it's like they click the email, they go onto the store, then they go and do their research, right? Maybe they go on
Yeah.
Amazon, maybe they go on Facebook, maybe they go on Instagram, they get hit again, and then they buy right through that ad. So it's like people also like I've seen this time and time again is like they forget that it's not just like okay if you're like okay, maybe email is converting higher, but think about all the other omnipresence that you're creating, right? Is like people buy in so many different ways. So that's a great point and a great
Absolutely.
reminder.
And then also like we can actually help, for example, the paid ad channel. Like if there's a group of people who've abandoned their cart in the last 30 days but have never purchased, and we know that they're just not going to purchase, they've completely churned an email, then we can actually send that specific segment in a CSV list to the page, to the paid team, and then they can use that for retargeting on Facebook or Google and that sort of thing. So just really helping other channels as well grow through email because we have all the data. So
Yeah. I'm pretty sure like I'm not a front end expert. I used to do front end back in the day, but I'm pretty sure that you can take if you have a big enough engaged email list, you can take that list, right? If you're highly engaged buyers, go to Facebook, upload that as a custom audience, create lookalike
yeah, you can.
audiences, and then literally target and like
Yeah.
freaking softwares or the pixel is so smart it can just go in and find similar people, right? So I've seen brands like talk about that as well. So again, not an expert on that end, but I've seen that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's wrap this up. I think that those were some really good points. Let's wrap this up with different type of emails, Kana, that you believe every single brand must be running as their base fundamentals. What are those? What is that basic foundation every brand should have?
Definitely a welcome flow. That is a huge one with the pop up at least, just to kind of nurture the journey as soon as the customers come in. So that's a huge one. The post purchase journey as well. A lot of customers, I mean, a lot of clients that I've seen when auditing the accounts, they just completely forget about the customer post purchase. And then they're like, oh, why did the customer not repurchase? It's because they haven't used the product, they haven't heard from you, your brand is not top of mind. So I think for retention specifically in terms of flows, post purchase is a huge one. Of course, then you get the basics like add it to cart, browse abandonment and abandoned checkout. Those ones are really huge. The highest converting one that I've seen most of the time is abandoned checkout because they're so close to finishing off the deal. So that's a really huge one. And especially for those ones, I definitely recommend A/B testing everything. So that goes from timing. Do you wait an hour? Do you wait 30 minutes? Like all of that makes a huge difference. So these are all fundamental flows that once you have set up, then you can start optimizing and testing from. I think those are the main ones. A lot of people add in a customer win back, and I think it's fine, but you do need to look at the cohort analysis. You need to look at when customers actually start to drop off. And you can find that on Shopify, you can find that on Timely, but look at where, the biggest jump is between, like, is it month 1 to month 2 to month 3? And then that's where you start your customer win back. You don't just kind of add in at no dates that you're not sure of. So
Mm.
yeah, but it's not a very high converting flow. But the main converting flows are the ones that I mentioned before. Those are the ones that you should definitely have and start A/B testing as soon as you have them.
Got it. Got it. Okay, that was some valuable stuff. Thank you, Keenan. Appreciate you coming
No
on and just
problem.
sharing some insights. On the next video, I think that we can take it where we can perhaps like break down. Like I'm seeing a lot of what I'm seeing is a lot of other like brands or marketing agencies. Like I'll see like they'll post on socials about like what the welcome flow looks like, and it's like one or two emails, right? I think
Yeah,
maybe we can do is like a breakdown of like showcasing what a in-depth welcome flow looks like from maybe like what we talked about in the beginning of this video, right? Versus if someone's buying from for themselves or for a gift for someone else, how we're personalizing that experience and how we're taking it a step further to really, really customize the customer buyer's journey. So I thought that would be pretty cool. But for now, we'll wrap this
that's it.
up. Thank you so much, Kenan.